Hello, and thank you for engaging with this virtual training from the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty. Today, we will be covering the fifth component of the Affirming Racial Equity tool, which is empowering classroom culture. It is important to understand that within the larger framework of racial equity within Jefferson County Public Schools, the Affirming Racial Equity, or ARR tool, is one of the central resources available to JCPS employees seeking to ensure our schools are actively pursuing racially equitable education for all students. If you have already explored the ARR tool and the ARR tool guidebook, you will already be aware of the extensive utility of this tool. The ARR tool can be leveraged by all school faculty to enhance outcomes for Black and Brown students. It is important to note here that regular utilization of the ARR tool, especially in PLCs, supports the JCPS racial equity policy and the future vision for curriculum, instruction, assessment, and pedagogy. Although the JCPS racial equity policy outlines many expectations for the central office and larger district, several expectations are most readily influenced by classroom educators. In regards to diversity in curriculum, instruction, and assessment, there are specific expectations all schools, school leaders, and classroom educators, regardless of content or grade level, are expected to pursue. In the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty, we strive to ensure that the mission and vision of the district lives in all areas because we believe that in JCPS, racial equity is everyone's concern and should be a commitment made by all. While all components of the ARR tool address the JCPS racial equity pillar, the other two pillars of JCPS are further supported by one half each of the ARR tool. Moreover, the ARR tool aligns with the ongoing work addressed throughout the JCPS 6 systems. These connections are not exhaustive, but are featured here to showcase the interconnectedness of the work being done within the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty. As previously mentioned, this virtual training is focused on the fifth component of the ARR tool, empowering classroom culture. If you are still building fluency around the ARR tool, this is a timely space to pause and reflect, preferably with your PLC, on the various lesson descriptors listed here. What is empowering classroom culture? It's the creation of safe spaces, particularly in the classroom, that are welcoming to all identities, diverse perspectives, experiences, cultures, races, abilities, linguistic, and religious groups. The classroom environment is set up in a way that encourages collaboration, physical comfort, and flexibility. It means that the room is adorned with realistic pictures, affirming decorations, student work, and positive depictions of Black or Indigenous people of color. It means that behavior management systems that support safe, inclusive communities by enforcing high standards for respectful interaction, teaching conflict resolution, and actively addressing all instances of bias, bullying, exclusion, or disrespect. These practices must reflect fairness, equity, and cultural awareness. Finally, it is having open channels of communication for all stakeholders. What does empowering classroom culture look like? It is asking students to be involved in setting classroom norms that are reviewed and refined on an as-needed basis, to generate buy-in and rethink the way we ask for student participation. It is engaging in open, honest dialogue between students and between students and the teacher. It looks like honoring student experience and giving students the opportunity to voice their opinion and help make decisions about instruction and curriculum. It's active teaching of social emotional skills, community building, and an explicit focus on understanding and appreciating differences. Utilizing the expertise of caregivers, guardians, and parents. It's also agreed upon protocols for discussion that are also referred to and refined as needed. What are the do's and don'ts of empowering classroom culture? Do. Routinely allow for students to provide feedback about instruction and curriculum. Do reflect frequently on interactions, the success or failure of classroom activities, and curricular choices. Do call on the expertise of caregivers to contribute their knowledge and collaborate with students. Do practice values-based behavior management. Please take a look at the link that is attached here. Values-based classroom management has 5 tenets, one of which is the belief in dignity of every person. Another is community building, equity and fairness, respect for cultural differences, and the last tenet is respect for the safety and inclusion of all individuals and groups. When it comes to empowering classroom culture, do not assume that all students who share an identity trait have the same experiences. Do not speak negatively about any student's race, ethnicity, culture, religion, class, gender, or sexual orientation. Do not neglect to arrange your classroom in a thoughtful way that encourages relationship building and communication. Here are some questions for you to consider in your PLCs. 1. How will the norms of this PLC work to meet the expectations of the district's racial equity policy and the school's racial equity plan? 2. How can the knowledge we have attained via data and the lived experiences of our students inform our understandings of students' needs? 3. How will the instruction provided to students permit them to be actively anti-racist and break down systems of inequity? And 4. How specifically does this component of the R tool support the work of your content area? Thank you for engaging in today's training. As you progress through the steps of the PLC framework, additional trainings for each component can be found within the R tool. You are encouraged to return to them as you need to ensure professional growth and racially equitable education for all students.